Well, I'm delighted to welcome our next guest onto the Plugged In podcast. And today we have Bobby Gray. Bobby is the founder of TEXITcoin. And it's going to be really interesting over the next 20 minutes or so to take a bit of a dive into his coin and also just to discuss kind of the landscape around crypto mining industry right now and all that good stuff. Bobby, how are you today?
It's a great day. Sun is shining here in Dallas, Texas.
Beautiful. I've only ever been to Austin, which I thoroughly loved.
Yeah.
I would love to visit Dallas. Is it worth a visit?
Not so much. If you've been to Austin, then you've kind of gotten a mix of Texas culture and also the weird oddity. Austin is a unique city because it's really the first time that we've had a cultural center in the United States that's inside of what we call a red state, right?
Hmm.
And so you've got a really eclectic mix of art and entertainment and that kind of stuff in Austin that makes it very weird, as we say. Keep Austin weird.
That's right. I've got a T-shirt with that on.
Yeah.
I spoke during South by Southwest, which was
Oh, there you go.
unreal.
You saw it firsthand.
Oh, I
Exactly.
did. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Now Texas is becoming, so they say, really the epicenter of the cryptocurrency conversation in the United States. And that is largely driven by the fact that crypto relies so heavily on power. And we've got the best electrical rates and abundant energy supplies here in Texas. And that's really only applicable for what we call proof of work crypto coins, the ones that require a physical infrastructure of mining hardware in order to create. And so we're really hoping that Texas and Austin, Dallas become hotspots for cryptocurrency entrepreneurism because of the energy that we have here and the very friendly regulatory environment that has made it really wide open to develop digital assets here in the state of Texas.
Amazing. I think what's going to be really helpful today, even though like crypto and coins and cryptocurrency are something that we're hearing all the time, I still feel like there's still some resistance, still some negativity that I'll probably get onto with you, Bobby.
Yeah.
But I'd love to start by just acknowledging the fact that you've been working with alternative currencies for a long time now, somebody who's been in the game a long time.
Yeah, thank you.
And how has your thinking about decentralization changed over the years with regards to this?
Well, I would say that the thinking about decentralization has been the same since day one.
Okay.
When we think about money, if we think about government currency, and it wasn't always like that over time. For a long time, it was gold and silver, and the greatest quality gold and silver coins were the ones that people demanded and accepted and circulated in the marketplace. And so the concept of centralization as it pertains to money is fairly recent in the human civilization track. What has changed, I would say, in answer to your question over the last dozen years is my willingness to accept the idea that digital, intangible zeros and ones somewhere out there in the cloud cryptocurrency can actually be a good form of money. And
Mhm.
it took me years to open my mind, to take off the blinders and consider that possibility. When you're working in the realm of gold and silver and copper coins, you can hold it. It's very tangible. You can lock it up in your safe, and then you think about cryptocurrency, which is really the opposite end of the value spectrum. And so that's what's really changed. Not so much the idea that decentralized money, money that doesn't get issued by a central authority, doesn't have to go through a central checkpoint to be passed from one individual to another. That's always been the same. The difference is the willingness to consider the possibility, not just that digital currency is usable as money, but it might actually be the best money mankind has ever seen.
Mm.
And that's a nut to swallow. That's a big one because, look, when you talk to people, especially from my world, the gold and silver community, that takes a long time to accept. And for me, it was a dozen years. But even just with regular, normal, everyday people that don't come from a background of precious metals, it's still tough to accept as well. And I think that's really driven by the fact that crypto was adopted first by gray and black markets. And so when people think about digital currency, they think money laundering, they think terror financing, they think all the bad stuff that has been done with crypto, which of course has been done with any other currency as well. Gold and silver, I'm sure, have been used for nefarious purposes over time, just like dollar bills have. So the thing that's changed in my mind isn't the idea of decentralization; it's the idea that digital money might be the better way to go.
Mm. I think that when we don't understand something as human beings, we then just push it rather than actually embrace it. And I think
Yeah,
because there's so many variables and probably still a big need for people to actually be educated,
right.
people
And
are just
that's
like, nah.
so important inside of this realm because what we have at the core of cryptocurrency is a financial technology that most people don't understand. And
Mm,
if they thought about it first and foremost as a financial technology, like a PayPal or a Venmo or a Cash App or any other elastic money service that you may have in your part of the world, it's a beautiful thing. You know, the idea that you can exchange value with anyone, anywhere, anytime. You don't have to go through a bank. There's no central authority that can stop it. You can do it almost for free. You can do it almost instantaneously. You can do it from one side of the world and the to the other and back in seconds. I mean, that's a pretty cool concept.
yeah.
And so that's what we have in our hands with this cryptocurrency concept. We're letting it slip through our fingers because when the big banks and the big money got involved in the crypto conversation, they kind of hijacked it and took it over. They brought it back around full circle. That Bitcoin came out to disrupt financial institutions, to give individuals medium of exchange that didn't have to go through the banks. And
Mm.
now the banks are central to that conversation, which is the whole reason that I started TEXITcoin in the first place.
Yeah, and even over the last week, looking at properties, I was seeing adverts saying we accept
Right.
cryptocurrency, which for me was the first time I've actually seen that
Yeah.
actually being advertised.
Yeah. Well, you've heard stories about it over the years. This guy sold this for crypto and now regrets it because it's worth, thousands of times more. So, yeah, it's a double-edged sword too, because look, you want something to become mainstream. If it's not mainstream, then the adoption rate is very, very low. So you need the banks to embrace it. In my country, we're starting to see banks now offering cryptocurrency services, which is mind blowing because a year ago, if you said Bitcoin in a bank, they're closing your bank account. So you want that. You want the banks and the governments and the regulatory agencies to engage it. Otherwise, it's difficult to get widespread adoption. So, but at the same time, you want it to remain pure. You want it to be what it was supposed to be, which was digital, decentralized, peer-to-peer currency, money for the people, by the people. And
Mm.
so, you take the good, you take the bad, and you try to keep the project moving forward. This idea of, decentralized, borderless, unstoppable money, the best you can.
Mm. Why do you think then, Bobby, that it's important for the US to grow its crypto mining industry right now?
Well, the big thing that most people aren't familiar with is the fact that Asia is predominantly now in control of crypto. My country, for example, is talking about strategic Bitcoin reserves, which to me is very strange because, most Bitcoin is now mined in China. The chips that you need to mine the crypto in the first place are made in China. And so, as the largest miner and holder of most cryptos, why would the United States be putting an asset on its books that's predominantly created by foreign nations? Some are friendly, some could be hostile someday in the future. Who knows? But the point is that we have the ability and the resources to create our own cryptocurrencies here. So the fact that nobody really has created a meaningful cryptocurrency to compete or to provide Americans with an alternative to Bitcoin and the other ones that are predominantly mined and controlled by China is very strange. But
Yeah,
we have the resources here to do it, and our message from TEXICoin standpoint is simple. Asia's got Bitcoin, America's got TEXICoin. Let's trade.
Mm. So, Bobby, what makes TEXITcoin, your coin, different from other cryptocurrencies when it comes to avoiding foreign control?
Well, we've got two things that are paramount in our project. The first is the digital mining infrastructure, the data farms, the big supercomputers that actually process the transactions. We're exclusively building those data centers in Texas. So, rule number one for us is that we've got a geographic limitation for where that infrastructure is built. And so far as I know, we're the only crypto that actually has a geographic limit on where that infrastructure is getting set up. The second thing is that we have what's called a permission blockchain, which means that you cannot join the network and mine our coin without permission. And what that does is it keeps out foreign nations or anyone that shows up with deep pockets that wants to take all of our block rewards and unlevel our playing field. So that's really what makes TEXICoin significantly different. We have a geographic limit on where we're actually building the physical mining infrastructure, and we have a permission network that means that not just everybody can join and hijack the network.
And how do you see TEXITcoin, Bobby, being used in everyday life in the future?
Well, that's the real goal. And we tell people that ask us the question of like, well, what's TEXICoin's utility? I mean, look, 1,000 new coins are cooked up and put into existence every day. What is it that's going to make yours different? What is the utility of TEXICcoin? And I first stop them and say, look, utility is a question that people cooked up once all these cryptos popped up that serve no purpose whatsoever.
Mm.
And it's like our utility is to pick up and fulfill Bitcoin's original promise, digital, decentralized, peer-to-peer currency. Almost nobody uses Bitcoin today and most other cryptos as money, Bitcoin especially because it's too slow and it's too expensive to use. And so we're the guys coming from that honest money, parallel and alternative currency background. We're the guys that actually know how to get people to use an alternative currency. And so our whole mission is honest money for Texas by Texans that can spread outward from there to other communities across the state, other communities across the country, and then eventually other communities across the world. And so our whole purpose is first in phase one to build the network that can process the transactions and record the data. And then second is to actually get small towns across Texas to use it like a stable coin. And so there's a lot more coming down the pike in phase two, we call it. But that is the goal. The goal is to actually get people to use an alternative currency that's fast, that's transparent, that's inexpensive, and start to take the banks out of the currency equation. Banks are supposed to store money, keep it safe, invest it, pay you an interest on that deposit. Whereas money is supposed to be direct, from individual to individual, from buyer to seller. And so we want to see that return, and that way people can start doing business with companies around town and not have to pay a 3% fee to the merchant service provider every time that money changes hands. Think about it. Like if you take $100 down to Main Street and you start spending money, they're going to get 97 of those dollars. And then the next merchant gets a little bit less. 40 or 50 times that money changes hands and it's gone. And it's
Mm.
like, well, where did it go? Well, like it left our community. It didn't even go to, a far nation. It just went to a bank. And with cryptocurrency, we don't need the bank to provide that service for us. We can do it for ourselves. And so
That's
we've got a lot coming down the pike with what we call phase two, which is the utility, which is getting people to once again use an alternative currency as a real form of money.
And what do you think needs to happen, for people to really be able to trust and use alternative currency like Texitcoin? Because, like I said, you're still having to overcome people's negative association with the things that have gone wrong, and because there's still a massive gulf in people's understanding,
Yeah.
that they kind of want to run away from it.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's easy. So part one is tools. You got to give people tools that they're comfortable with. For a long time, we were using gold, silver, and copper coins in a barter system here in the US, and that was uncomfortable. No one's walking around with pockets full of gold and silver coins anymore. It's too old fashioned. It's horse and buggy. And so if we can give them an app that works easily and a tap to pay feature that they're familiar with, that's step one. Step two is to start to remove the stigma of all the things that people have misused cryptocurrency for, and show them that there is a different way to do it that doesn't have to be gray market or black market. And number three is you got to give them an incentive, right? To change behavior, there's got to be an upside. What is it that's going to incent someone to actually think outside the dollar? It's not easy. We've been using the dollar or whatever currencies in your world for our whole entire lifetime. And so to switch over to something else is a big ask. And if there's an upside for it, whether that upside is get your money to go a little bit further, or you get to keep a little bit more of your money, or you get to see the money stay inside of your community and circulate downtown. And with crypto, you can actually watch that. You can track it. If I spend my money down at the local coffee shop and they spend it over here and it goes to the boutique and back to the pizza shop and then the coffee shop, I mean, we can watch the money as it moves around town. And so there's almost a gamification opportunity to a local community currency that shows people real time, real world results in terms of either savings or in terms of economic activity or keeping that money local. So there has to be an incentive. If there's not an incentive, then it's unlikely that anyone's going to change behavior. And so those three things are the keys to our success. And those three things have been very familiar and comfortable for us for many years as leaders in alternative and complementary currency. I mean, this is the thing that I testified about in US Congress back in 2012 before most people ever heard of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And so I'm really excited because I was successful doing this very thing the hard way.
Mm.
And now, like I said, step one is good tools. Now we have the ability to do it 1,000 times faster. We can go 1,000 times further in a fraction of the time because digital currency is so fast and so easy to scale. And that's a really big thing because if we want the town to adopt an alternative stablecoin backed, cryptocurrency, we have to make it easy for that to happen, easy for it to scale. And you just can't do that with any other tools that are out there.
Mm. Bobby, how do people find out more about you and TEXITcoin? Where do we need to go?
Simple Google search for TEXITcoin. They can learn more about our digital asset on CoinMarketCap or on CoinGecko. These are websites people go to research, really ask the question of whether or not a coin is legitimate. I want people to understand that cryptocurrency is risky. There are a lot of them out there. Many of them come and go. Thousands are started and fail every day. And so we want you to do your research first. CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko are great places to do that. And then you can find exchanges that TEXITcoin is traded on. And you can also find your way back to our social media or our website at texitcoin.org to learn more about the project.
Thank you, Bobby, for joining me on the Plugged In podcast.
My pleasure.
Really
Thanks so much
good.
for having
Thank you.
me.
You're welcome.